Hi, everyone. I'm Yolande Falion. I am a former McKinsey consultant and Morgan Stanley VP turned founder and CEO of Otito. And I'm also a certified leadership coach. I work and we work at Otito primarily with entrepreneurial executives as well as serial high achievers who are trying to accelerate into more senior, more impactful, more meaningful leadership positions. So you probably won't be surprised to learn that I work with a lot of people who are working very hard and often getting to the point where they're experiencing diminishing returns on their hard work. And I get it, right? Like many of you, I spent over a decade in high pressured, super intense, fast paced corporate environments surrounded by really, really intelligent, equally driven, and sometimes even more so, and high achieving professionals. While these environments can be energizing and exciting and be great opportunities for growth, they can also be a lot of hard work. And if you know anything about me and the work that I do at Otito and since becoming a leadership coach, after a decade or over a decade in corporate and as a recovering workaholic, I can proudly say that I am not a fan of working harder. I'm all about leading smarter. So today, I'm going to be sharing the one simple, effortless thing that you can do to 10x your impact. All right. So I'm going to do, firstly, I'm going to tell you what the thing is in a short while. Second, I'm going to share tangible examples of how doing it actually makes a difference in terms of having the impact that you want. Right. And then third, I'm going to share a little secret right at the end about how you not only do it, but how you truly master it. So you're not just 10xing, but you're 20xing, 30xing your impact. Again, really effortlessly without extra hard work, because I'm not about that. So, what's the thing? Picture the scene, right? And some of you may resonate with this. I'm in a meeting, and this happened multiple times across my career with senior executives of multi-billion dollar companies, right? Advising them on a variety of things. And I make a suggestion, whether to the recommendation, the process, the way we're working, and the response is not quite what I want, right? Maybe there's some resistance sometimes, other times there's just a lack of interest. Sometimes it's almost like I didn't say anything. And then 2 weeks later or so, sometimes it's 1 week, 2 weeks, what doesn't really matter the time scale, but someone else raises the exact same idea, the same point, the same suggestion, the same process, and they get praised for it, right? They get praised for their critical thinking, the creativity, their strategic thinking, the way that they communicated it. And I'm sitting there going, seriously? I just said that. I said it just a while ago. Well, I can teach you the art and science of influencing and top-down communication, which are all very important, and I do quite a lot with clients that I work with. I remind you again, it's not about working harder, which sometimes is there, but first let's think about how we can lead smarter, right? By starting with the low-hanging fruit. So here's the thing. The thing that the most impactful leaders do effortlessly in order to 10x, 20x their impact, right? To significantly improve their impact is repetition. And I'm going to share a quote. Zig Ziglar says, and I quote, repetition is the mother of learning, the father of action, which makes it the architect of accomplishment. And who doesn't want to accomplish loads? So whether it's in your actions, your thoughts, or your words, repetition is the key to that impact and to significant impact. If you're joining live, feel free to say hi, send any questions that come through. And if you're joining later on, put hashtag replay and send any questions as well, because I love to interact afterwards and really get your thoughts as to how this is relevant, how it's not, and how it can be helpful to what you're doing. So you may be thinking when I talk about repetition, which I certainly did, and I sometimes do even now, no one seemed interested. So why should I bother repeating my idea, right? Or I don't want to seem annoying by raising the same thing over and over again. Or maybe won't people just think that I don't have any other ideas if I keep repeating the same thing? Time and time again, I see clients, colleagues, friends miss out on impact, opportunities, jobs, connections by giving up too quickly, right? Um, Hi, we've got someone from DC. Great to see you. Send any questions that you have and let me know how much, if any of this is resonating, okay? But I see lots of people miss out on opportunities because they're just giving up too quickly. And many people default to thoughts that drive us to give up, right? Either fear or self-doubt. We think, well, again, if I say this, I doubt whether or not it will actually have the impact that I want, or I'm fearful of the way people react if they hear me responding. And while it's natural to feel the way that it does, as I always say, it's not necessary. It's often not constructive to what we're trying to achieve. So instead of repeating and building our thoughts, what we do is we give up. We try to work harder elsewhere to make up for it. And then we get exhausted and we still don't have the impact that we want. And then, as I said, someone else comes in, they say the thing, and then they get the credit. So, what if instead you thought, the no is just an initial position. And now that I understand the concern, I can come back with a more compelling solution. Or maybe by sharing the idea with my boss multiple times, it gives them time to process and a better understanding of the opportunity. Or maybe even this is a great idea and I want to share it because I'm convinced that it has a potential for immense impact. What if you thought that instead? Now, how might you show up? So I'm going to give you a couple of tangible examples of what this repetition actually looks like. And I'm going to look at kind of the three areas of leadership that I often share ideas on: self leadership, thought leadership, and people leadership. So, in terms of self leadership, one of the things that we often talk about is, first of all, knowing yourself so well, knowing your superpowers, your strengths, your passions, your values, your experiences, your background, so that when it comes to sharing that with others, you are on point all the time. Because if you don't know what your strengths are, there is no way you can demonstrate that, regardless of what situation you're in. So, repetition in this area might look like not just doing that exercise once, but consistently reminding yourself of that and others as well. So I worked with someone once who went, yeah, I know what I'm great at. That's fine. That's not the issue. The issue is there are loads of things that I need to improve. But what they were missing was their impression. And once we did this exercise, it became clear that what their idea of what their strengths was actually completely outdated, right? The last time they'd done the exercise was sort of 5 years ago when they were in a completely different position. So what they were projecting to other people was pretty old in terms of its accuracy. And it meant that they'd missed out on 5 years of strengths, of passions, of values, of experiences, of backgrounds that they could share to really amplify who they were and to strengthen themselves in their leadership. So, repetition in terms of self leadership looks like, again, not every day, but continuously reminding yourself in intervals. And I do this exercise myself every so often, certainly at least once a quarter, but where your superpowers lie. Again, what are your strengths, the things that you are great at, the combination of things that you're great at? What are you passionate about? Again, we evolve. There are things that we learn that we love to do. Keep abreast of that. And where are our values, not just within our professional lives, but also personally? And feel confident about connecting those things and then sharing that with others, either in the way we think, in the way that we speak, or in the actions that we do. Thought leadership. So, how does this repetition show up in thought leadership? Thought leadership at its basis, and there are different areas of this, really comes down to creating solutions. So share your solutions and let it sink in, right? Even if it's not adopted or you don't feel that it's been confidently adopted, share it again. Share it with the audience in front of you, share it with other people, get ideas, get buy in, right? Trying once is not enough. Think about the number of times that you often hear a solution before you truly adopt it, before you truly understand what it means, how it applies to you, and how it can create impact for you, right? Don't give other people, sorry, the opportunity to truly understand your thoughts and the ideas that you have. Because remember, just because you're an expert in something and it comes easily, doesn't mean that it comes easily to other people. One of the exercises that we used to do, it wasn't an exercise, but the way of approaching clients when I was at McKinsey was really bringing the client along, recognizing that just because you had spent 5 hours on an Excel spreadsheet, that a client would understand it within 5 minutes is asking for a lot, right? Not because they can't grasp it, but because often we've spent so much time on our solutions and we take for granted that people often need to hear it multiple times to really let it sink in and to understand how it applies to them. And then finally, people leadership. So the way repetition often shows up here is in continuous communication and connection. So here's a really typical example that I hear from the type of clients that I work with, right? We are great at what we do. And so often we find opportunities to connect with people for more opportunities, right? It could be connecting with a more senior leader. It could be connecting with someone outside of your division. It could be connecting with a potential client, right? Or a potential partner in business. We send them an email, we don't get a response, and we go, all right, they're probably not interested, they're busy, I'm going to give up, right? Repetition looks like sending them another message. Ask again, would they like to connect? We are all busy. Again, think about yourself. What happens when you get a message? Do you immediately reply? Well, yeah, maybe if you're not busy, and if you completely understand what's going on with that message and what the person's asking for. But if not, make an effort, right? If there truly is value and impact to be had, focus on that and not just on the fact that you haven't got to where it is that you want. Because if you aren't repeating and you're not constantly doing this, then it means that you're losing out on opportunities. And the great thing about repetition is that you've already done it once. You don't have to recreate something. It's already within your arsenal. It's just about the follow up, whether it's in terms of your self leadership, your thought leadership, or your people leadership. Um, and while I'm just seeing a message here, thanks so much. Yeah, we don't often think the message says, wow, I didn't think to update my idea of personal strength. It's important because we evolve all the time, right? If we think about, I'm going to be a bit extreme now. Imagine if you believe that your strengths were exactly the same as they were when you were a 5-year-old kid, right? And that's what you were still holding on to. But we're constantly evolving. We're constantly learning new things. We're constantly creating more new strengths, new passions, new values. So it's important to create that repetition so that we are up to date with the value and the impact that we can have. So the main takeaway is to remember that as human beings, we often need a little more than a nudge and often need to hear the same things a few times for it to really seep in, especially in high pressured, super intense, really fast paced corporate environments because there's so much going on, right? So do yourself a favor, do your career, do your business, do your boss a favor. Don't keep pushing to work harder. Really think about how you're leading smarter by thinking about how you can repeat and build on your most impactful ideas to get it over the line. Finally, I did promise that I was going to share a little secret about how to do this like a master, right? Where you're not just using repetition to create the 10x impact, but really 20, 30x. And the secret is to build with each repetition. And you do that by better understanding your audience, whether your audience is yourself or other people. And what that might sound like is, and I'll talk a little bit about, let's go with thought leadership, right? If you're trying to get a solution out there and someone goes, you share your solution first time, and the response is either less than exciting, or it's a little bit tapered, or it's just a no, or it's a maybe not. That's okay, right? What you want to then do to build before you repeat is to ask to learn, right? Ask what other people resonated, what part of the proposal did work for them, because there's often something, right? It's rarely just a complete no. And then ask what didn't resonate, what their concerns were. So when you then come back to repeat your solution, again, I'm not letting go of repetition. You're still coming back to repeat either then or later. You're also addressing their concerns. And what that might sound like is, oh, so I still feel very confident about solution A, and I know that there were concerns around this specific aspect. Here's how we address that aspect. But this is still very important. When you're reaching out to people, again, I'll use the example I used earlier around people leadership. You're reaching out a second time in an email. Maybe do a little research on them, right? Understand what they're involved in right now. If they posted something recently, refer to that. So you resend the email, right, with whatever your ask is. For example, hey, I'd still really love to get on a call with you because I think there are synergies between our business. Or I believe there's a lot of impact that I can provide. Or I think there's a lot that you can provide to me and where I am in my career right now, right? But then add a little bit more around the connection. Oh, I noticed that you also did this, right? I noticed that you were also in finance. I was in finance, and what I've learned recently is that it's important to do X, Y, and Z. So you give them more information, you give them more opportunities, and maybe you give them more options for how you can connect, right? If in person isn't great, we can just do a 30 minutes on the phone or on Zoom. So you're still repeating the thing that you want, but you are evolving it based on the response or lack of response that you got. Okay, so I'm going to recap really quickly. What's the thing to 10x your impact? Repetition. Super easy, right? It's not just an arbitrary action. So the why, it really shows up in all areas of your leadership. And it truly is effortless because you've already done the thing. You've already done the work to figure out the thing that you want to say. So repetition is just about repeating it. And then the third thing, which I mentioned, was around mastery, right? If you really want to master this and evolve it and make sure it's not just 10x, but it's 20x, 30x, then in between each of your repetitions, you just evolve it and tweak a little bit. And you do that by truly understanding your audience and then catering a little bit more every time to what it is that they're looking to do. Two final thoughts. Remember, you don't have to do all the things all at once. So get strategic. Clarify what it is you're trying to achieve right now. What's the most important thing, why it's important, and then identify the top thing that you need to do to address it. So you might say, right now for me, the key thing is around people leadership. I really want to develop and build my, I don't know, my senior leadership presence, right? Focus on that. You don't have to do everything. And then figure out the thing that you want to, that will give you the biggest impact, and figure out opportunities to repeat with one person, with multiple people, with lots of people in different scenarios. All right. If you want coaching support or accountability, or you just want to have a chat and share kind of more about what you've learned and how we can be helpful in order to help you to effortlessly 10x your impact, then let's chat. Head over to www.ottalleadership.com to book time with me and see how we can help. And there's a link in the show notes. If you come through later on, do put hashtag replay, send any questions that you have, and I'd love to get in touch. All right, take care. And thanks so much for the comment. This is even more relevant during this pandemic. I completely agree. We have to get creative about the ways that we create the impact that we want. All right, thanks everyone. Take care.